What if I told you that the most profound psychological transformation doesn't happen in your 20s or 30s, but after you've crossed the threshold of midlife? Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about empaths who reach this critical juncture will completely revolutionize everything you thought you knew about aging and consciousness. Carl Jung said that life has two halves, and the second half operates under completely different psychological laws than the first. And nowhere is this more evident than in the empath who crosses into the second half of life. You see, people think midlife is about decline, about losing vitality and relevance. But Jung's research revealed something far more complex and, frankly, absolutely extraordinary. Here's what most people don't understand about empaths after midlife, and trust me, by the end of this you'll never fear aging again. According to Carl Jung, the first half of life is about building, achieving, proving yourself to the world. But the second half is about something far more powerful. Jung called it the turn inward, and for empaths, this turn is nothing short of revolutionary. But here's where it gets dangerous, and why the world should pay attention. Carl Jung discovered that around midlife, the psyche undergoes what he termed a fundamental reorientation. The values that drove you for decades suddenly feel hollow. The people-pleasing that seemed so natural becomes unbearable. The need for external validation transforms into a hunger for internal truth. For empaths, this shift is seismic. They've spent 40, 50 years absorbing everyone else's emotions, carrying everyone else's burdens, prioritizing everyone else's needs. And then something cracks open. Something Jung called the midlife crisis. Though he understood it wasn't a crisis at all, it was an awakening. Listen carefully to what happens next, because this is where everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down. According to Carl Jung's theory of individuation, midlife is when the unconscious begins demanding its due. All those parts of yourself you suppressed, all those desires you ignored, all those boundaries you never set, they rise up with undeniable force. The empath who has been accommodating and understanding and endlessly patient suddenly feels something they've never felt before: rage. Not destructive rage, but what Jung called holy rage, the psyche's demand for authenticity. And when that rage arrives, it changes everything. Here's what Jung understood that most people miss. Empaths spend the first half of life perfecting their persona, the mask they show the world. They become experts at reading rooms, at making others comfortable, at being what everyone needs them to be. But Jung discovered that this persona, no matter how well crafted, eventually becomes a prison. After midlife, the psyche can no longer tolerate the pretense. The empath begins to let the mask slip, and what emerges underneath is absolutely magnificent. Carl Jung observed that midlife empaths undergo what he called the confrontation with the shadow. They begin to see all the parts of themselves they'd rejected, the anger they'd suppressed, the selfishness they'd denied, the boundaries they'd refused to set. But here's the twist Jung identified. These shadow elements aren't weaknesses, they're sources of untapped power. The empath who integrates their shadow after midlife becomes psychologically complete in a way that terrifies people who knew the old version. According to Carl Jung's research, there's a specific phenomenon that happens to empaths after midlife. He called it the withdrawal of projections. For decades, empaths project their own potential onto others. They see the best in people. They believe in everyone's capacity for growth. They give chance after chance after chance. But after midlife, Jung discovered, this projection mechanism breaks down. The empath starts seeing people exactly as they are, not as they could be, not as they should be, as they actually are. And this clarity is both devastating and liberating. Carl Jung said that the second half of life is governed by different gods than the first. In youth, we worship achievement, beauty, success, approval. But after midlife, the psyche begins worshipping truth, authenticity, depth, meaning. The empath who crosses this threshold stops caring about being liked and starts caring about being real. They stop performing empathy. and start embodying discernment. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind about what happens next. According to Carl Jung, midlife is when the self, with a capital S, begins to emerge. This is not the ego, not the persona, but the totality of who you are, light and shadow integrated. For empaths, this emergence is particularly powerful because they've developed extraordinary psychological sensitivity. They don't just undergo individuation, they accelerate through it. They become what Jung called natural psychologists, people who understand human nature at a level that takes others lifetimes to reach. Here's where the psychology gets absolutely fascinating. Carl Jung discovered that empaths after midlife develop what he termed psychological immunity. They've been manipulated enough times to recognize the patterns instantly. They've been betrayed enough to spot insincerity from miles away. They've given enough to know exactly who deserves their energy and who doesn't. This isn't cynicism. It's what Jung called wisdom born from experience, and it makes them absolutely untouchable. According to Carl Jung's theory of psychological types, empaths naturally lead with their feeling function. But after midlife, Jung observed, they develop their thinking function to balance it. They don't lose their empathy. They gain discernment. They don't stop caring. They start choosing. They become what Jung termed psychologically balanced individuals who can feel deeply and think clearly simultaneously. And this combination is devastatingly powerful. Carl Jung said that midlife is when people finally stop living for others and start living for themselves. But for empaths, this transition is particularly dramatic. They've spent decades being everyone's therapist, everyone's support system, everyone's emotional dumping ground. After midlife, they begin what Jung called the Great Withdrawal. They stop being available to everyone. They stop explaining themselves. They stop apologizing for their needs. They reach what Jung termed psychological sovereignty, complete ownership of their time, energy, and emotional space. But here's the part that will send chills down your spine. According to Carl Jung, the most dangerous people are not those who have never been kind, but those who have been kind and learned when to stop. The midlife empath embodies this perfectly. They know exactly how to read people because they've been reading them for decades. They know exactly where it hurts because they've been hurt in every way imaginable. They know exactly how to withdraw their light because they've seen what happens when it's given to darkness. They become what Jung called psychologically strategic. And strategy combined with empathy is absolutely unstoppable. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Carl Jung observed that after midlife, empaths undergo what he called the return to the self. They begin reclaiming all the energy they've poured into others. They start investing in their own dreams, their own healing, their own growth. They stop rescuing people who enjoy drowning. They stop fixing people who don't want to change. They become what Jung termed complete unto themselves, self-sufficient, psychologically whole, emotionally independent. According to Carl Jung's lifetime of research, there's a final transformation that happens to empaths after midlife. He called it the emergence of the wise elder, not someone old and fragile, but someone seasoned and powerful. The midlife empath becomes a force of nature, not because they seek power, but because they've finally claimed it. They no longer need to prove their empathy. They embody it selectively. They no longer chase connection. They attract reciprocity. They no longer tolerate dysfunction. They simply remove themselves from its presence. Carl Jung discovered that this is the natural evolution of the empathic soul. The first half of life is about learning to feel everything. The second half is about learning to feel selectively. The first half is about opening your heart to everyone. The second half is about protecting your heart carefully. And the empath who masters this balance becomes what Jung called a fully individuated being, someone who has integrated every lesson, every wound, every betrayal into a coherent, powerful, authentic self. This is what Carl Jung discovered about empaths after midlife. They don't diminish, they concentrate, they don't weaken, they refine. They don't lose themselves. they find themselves, often for the very first time. And once you understand this, you'll never pity someone in their second half of life again, because they're not declining. They're becoming everything Jung knew they could be: psychologically complete, emotionally sovereign, and absolutely magnificently whole.